So overall, we've now got a good grasp of the face shape and its general meanings. What's next is just learning to recognize a few more age groups. From ages 31 to 34, that's represented around the eyes and eyebrows. This whole eyebrow area reflects those years. Then the area around the eyes corresponds to ages 35 to 40. The nose and both cheekbones represent ages 41 to 50. And the forehead, that covers ages 15 to Mupadam. So when you look at someone and notice their eyebrows are messy or unbalanced, remember eyebrows reflect personality. If the eyebrows are off, it means there's likely something unsettled in their character. And when personality is off, it often shows up in strained relationships with siblings, relatives, even between husband and wife. And once those relationships are tense, it naturally spills over into business or work, creating all sorts of challenges. You see what I mean? Just by observing the eyebrows, you can sense a lot. These difficulties can show up at any time, but they tend to hit harder during the ages of 31 to 34, the years reflected by the eyebrows. That's when their impact is felt more strongly. On the flip side, if your eyebrows are well-shaped and harmonious, it suggests that your relationships, especially with siblings, are peaceful. It reflects a balanced personality. And when you reach those ages from 31 to 34, that harmony tends to manifest more clearly, bringing smoother, more favorable experiences. Exactly. When someone has a well-shaped nose, it indicates that the years from 41 to 50 will likely be smooth and favorable. But more than that, the nose represents willpower and it symbolizes one's inner strength. So a person with a strong balanced nose is someone who's constantly put in effort throughout their life. And when they reach 41 to 50, that determination pays off once again, bringing another wave of success and ease. On the other hand, someone with a flat or low nose often struggles with staying power. They're quick to get excited, but just as quick to lose interest. Their willpower tends to be weak. They might dare to start something, but don't have the courage to see it through, or they leave things unfinished. That kind of pattern is already there in their personality, but when they hit ages 41, 42, 43, if the nose is flat, those years can bring an extra layer of difficulty. You see how it all connects? So, what we're doing here is observing how certain ages correspond to different parts of the face. You can take this facial map and use it as a reference, but remember, it's just that, a reference. These age markers relate to what we call form, or the outer appearance. They're like the branches and leaves of a tree, not the core, not the roots. They don't define the essence of a person. These two lines here are called the nasolabial folds. If they curve inward and extend into the mouth, it's traditionally seen as a sign of someone destined for a life of poverty or hardship. But honestly, I've never seen anyone starve in real life, so I've also never come across someone whose nasolabial folds actually dip into their mouth like that. The nasolabial folds, when you smile, they stretch across your mouth, but they never actually enter it. However, if you open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue, and there's a red mole inside, that's what they call the destiny of a king. In traditional face reading, if the nasolabial folds curve into the mouth and inside there's a red mole, it's said to be a sign of someone born to rule. But truthfully, I've never met a king myself, so I can't say if this actually happens. It's written in the old texts, so I'm just sharing it for your curiosity. Take it as a light-hearted reference. Now, this is the lower zone of the face. It represents the later years of life and is traditionally linked to what the ancients called servants or attendants. In today's language, that might mean children, descendants, employees, or subordinates. Basically, it reflects the people who support or work under you as you grow older. So when this whole lower zone, the chin, the jawline, the mouth is well-shaped and balanced, it reflects a smooth and fortunate old age. It suggests you'll have loyal staff or devoted children and grandchildren to care for you. That's all it means, really. Simple as that. So what happens if your face is narrow and sharp like that sculpted V-line look that pulls everything in? Then think about this. When you're older, in that lower zone of life, whose effort are you living off of? It's simple. The life you have later on is the result of the seeds you plant now. If the younger you put in the work, the older you will enjoy the fruit. So if your face is narrow, your mouth a little crooked, don't worry. Just focus on living well during your youth and middle age. Live with intention, with goodness, through that whole stretch of life. And naturally, when old age comes, the harvest will be sweet. You'll earn the respect of family and those around you, not because of your face, but because of how you've lived. If, during your middle years, you choose cunning over character just to chase money, then when old age comes, everything you've built can slip away: people, wealth, even respect. It all comes down to the seeds you plant in this stage of life. So from the perspective of physiognomy, when we look at the face and its form, a narrow, drawn-in face often reflects hardship in old age. Yet from the deeper lens of inner physiognomy, the character behind the features, it's the seeds you sow that truly shape your future. If you live with goodness and integrity throughout these 20 years, then the 20 years that follow will almost certainly be peaceful and fulfilling. But if you sow negativity and harm during this time, even a lower zone that looks promising will eventually reflect hardship. The face reveals the form, but the heart writes the fate. No matter how well-shaped your mouth might be, no matter how favorable it looks, if you've spent those 20 years living selfishly or causing harm, then when old age comes, no one will want to be around you. That's just the truth. So clearly, when comparing face reading to the law of cause and effect, it's cause and effect that gives us the clearer, more reliable answer. Character always outweighs appearance. The 5 peaks refer to the 5 natural elevations of the face: your forehead, 2 cheekbones, nose, and chin. These are called peaks because when you touch them, you can feel the bone rising beneath the skin. A peak by nature stands out and protrudes. So these are the 5 structural high points of the face that reflect strength and character. The 4 rivers, that's what they call the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and the ears. The eyes because they can flow with tears. The nose because it runs. The mouth because it speaks and breathes. And the ears as channels of sound. These are metaphorically referred to as the 4 rivers, or sometimes the 4 poisons. But don't get too caught up in the poetic terms. It's just a colorful way of saying there are a few key things to pay attention to when reading a face, that's all. When the 3 zones of the face are balanced and the 5 peaks, forehead, cheekbones, nose, and chin align in harmony, it's called 3 zones in balance, 5 peaks in unity. This kind of facial structure often signals a life of ease, natural blessings, and lasting good fortune. When all 3 sections of the face are proportionate and intact without any major flaws, it suggests a life free from struggles over basic needs. In general, such a person is destined for a smooth and fortunate path. So in short, someone whose 3 facial zones are balanced and whose 5 peaks align gracefully is seen as naturally fortunate. But whether that good fortune turns you into a caged chicken, safe but limited, or into a soaring eagle, free and powerful, depends entirely on how you train and shape yourself. The blessing is there, but it's your effort that decides the outcome. 2 people may be equally fortunate, both born into well-off families, both given the resources to be raised well. But the real difference lies in how they're raised. A family that doesn't understand proper upbringing might smother their child with comfort, give them a house, a helper, Everything on a silver platter, and that child becomes a sheltered, domesticated chicken. Still lucky, yes, but limited. On the other hand, if you raise them with wisdom and intention, that same child can grow into an eagle, strong, free, and able to soar. It all comes down to how we teach and guide them. Now take a look at this face. Do you see how balanced the three zones are? The face is full and rounded, right? It carries a sense of warmth, of kindness. That's a sign of someone with a gentle, good-hearted nature. Look at the eyebrows, they run straight across. The eyes are soft and calm. Even the ears are fairly large, which is often a good sign. Everything feels quite harmonious, except perhaps the nose, which is a little on the smaller side. So that tells us their willpower and determination are decent above average, but not especially strong. Still, with a face this full and rounded, they're likely someone naturally blessed with warmth and good fortune, a kind spirit and a life that flows with ease. That's the impression this face gives. Now take a look at your faces. You've got the forehead, the cheekbones, everything seems to be there. But look closely at the mouth. Does it look like a mouth that offers praise or one that lashes out? It's the kind of mouth that bites back, clenched teeth grinding. Can you feel that energy? And the nose is tall and proud, or low and flat. It's flat. And a flat nose, as we know, often reflects someone who gets excited easily, but loses interest just as fast. A mouth like that one that tends to lash out naturally pushes people away. So what should this young woman work on? She needs to change her mouth, not just its shape, but its expression, its energy. And what about the nose? A flat nose signals a tendency to give up easily, to crave but not commit. To transform that, she needs to build willpower. Take on difficult tasks, step out of her comfort zone, do volunteer work in remote areas, anything that challenges her and strengthens her inner resolve. That's how real change begins. Choose the hard path. Keep taking on difficult tasks, and after a year or two, your willpower naturally strengthens. As for the mouth, start practicing kind speech. Speak with warmth, with compassion. Let go of harsh words. Stop criticizing. Stop comparing yourself to others. Do that, and the energy around your mouth will shift. The face changes when the heart does. That's how transformation happens. When the 5 peaks are well proportioned and balanced, the face naturally looks pleasant and harmonious. This often reflects a gentle, easygoing personality. Someone who gets along well with others and tends to have a smooth, uncomplicated life. But because things come easily, there's rarely enough pressure to build deep resilience or fierce determination. These are the kinds of people who are fair-skinned, chubby, soft-featured, and easy on the eyes. They're lucky, no doubt, but also at risk of becoming like domesticated chickens, comfortable and protected. They don't handle pressure well. They struggle with hardship. When life gets tough, they're more likely to give up. And that's when we need to look back and reflect. Someone with a balanced 3-zone face is clearly blessed. They carry a lot of natural fortune. But here's the key. If that blessing is met with effort, if they've endured and overcome real challenges, then they rise like an eagle. But if they just sit back and enjoy their luck, never testing themselves, they become nothing more than a plump, pampered chicken safe, fortunate but grounded. A life of comfort, yes, but not of greatness. The eyes, they're all about clarity and contrast. The black of the iris and the white of the sclera should be clearly defined, not blurred or blending into each other. The whites of the eyes should actually be white, clean, and bright. If the sclera is clouded with red veins or appears dull, that's generally not a good sign. It suggests imbalance, stress, or inner unrest. In face reading, clarity in the eyes reflects clarity in the heart and mind. When the whites of the eyes turn cloudy, that's a warning sign. And if the black of the iris starts to blur into the white, losing its clarity, that's not good either. In face reading, the eyes reflect the spirit, and the spirit is shaped by our thoughts. For the eyes to shine, the mind must be clear. When your thoughts are pure, your gaze is bright. But when your mind is full of negativity or harmful intent, the eyes grow dull, lose their light. Think of someone who drinks heavily or lives recklessly. You can see it in their eyes before they even speak. Now think about someone who drinks heavily. Do their eyes stay clear and bright, or do they become dull and clouded? They become dull, of course. And what about their voice? Is it steady and clear, or does it turn rough and slurred? It becomes hoarse, sluggish, unclear. That's the reality. Someone who drinks often and for long enough will slowly lose both their spirit and their vitality. Their presence fades, their energy weakens. The light in their eyes dims, and their voice loses its strength. That's what it means to lose both spirit and life force. When spirit fades and life force weakens, it's like a tree losing its sap. Its inner vitality slowly drains away. That's why people who drink heavily for years often face serious illness, like cancer, or sudden tragedies like accidents. It's not just about the body wearing down, it's about the loss of essential energy that keeps us truly alive. And when that's gone, life is cut short. You don't have to believe it, just try it. Go drink every day for 5 years and see what happens. The decline is real, and it begins inside. Instead of drinking 3 times a week, try 6 or 7, and in 5 years, you might crash your car or fall seriously ill. That's how fast things can spiral. That's why in physiognomy, drinking is never encouraged. It drains your vital spirit and energy. Instead of drinking, face reading encourages us to move, practice martial arts, play sports, and stay active. These things build strength, train your mind, and keep your inner energy alive. That's how you stay healthy and full of life, not by dulling yourself with alcohol. Now look at these eyes. Are the eyebrows thick? Yes, thick eyebrows often signal a strong personality. And what kind of gaze is this, gentle or intense and sharp? It's intense. A piercing stare combined with a dominant personality. Does it sound like someone who might lean toward harmful actions? Yes, it does. This is the face of someone who later became a criminal, a murderer, who was eventually caught and executed at the age of 36. Now take a look at Michael Jackson's eyes. Notice something? These are sanpaku eyes, where the iris floats in the center and you can clearly see the whites on the left, right, and below. That's 3 sides of white. In some rare cases, when the whites appear on all 4 sides, left, right, above, and below, it's called shihaku eyes. When there's white above the iris, below it, to the left, and to the right, that's shihaku eyes. So what's the key trait of sanpaku and shihaku eyes? They often appear when a person is overwhelmed by emotion or anger. In fact, even someone with normal eyes can momentarily show sanpaku when they're shocked or startled. The eyes widen, and suddenly the whites become more visible. When you're shocked or surprised, your eyes naturally widen, and in that moment, they can turn into sanpaku eyes. The same happens when you're angry, your eyes flare open, exposing more of the whites. People who are easily controlled by their emotions, who react impulsively, tend to develop sanpaku or even shihaku eyes. And when that happens, what happens to your inner energy? It doesn't stay grounded, it escapes. Sanpaku and shihaku eyes are what we call exposed eyes that reveal too much. When the eyes are too revealing, it means the inner energy, the spirit, is leaking out. And when that energy escapes, it's like a tree losing its sap. Without sap, the tree withers, and in human terms, that's a sign of a shortened lifespan. Take Zhang, for example. He couldn't fully close his eyes even while sleeping. Now ask yourself, if the eyes don't close during rest, is the inner energy being preserved or lost? It's being lost. That's the key point. Why is it that when we're exhausted, our eyes instinctively shut, even if we're not full or hungry? It has nothing to do with food. It's because the body wants to protect its energy, to seal it in. That's why when you're angry at someone, your eyes widen and your mouth opens to yell. And in that moment, your energy, your life force is escaping. If you've ever argued with someone, really gotten into it, you'll notice how exhausted you feel afterward, right? That's because your inner energy has poured out. Both people feel drained, not just one. But when you live in peace, in harmony, everything settles. You feel calm, steady. That's the power of preserving your spirit. So Zhang couldn't close his eyes and sleep. His spirit was constantly leaking out. And that's why, from a face reading perspective, his death wasn't random. He didn't just pass away quietly. He was killed by one of his own soldiers. But the deeper meaning is this: if that soldier hadn't killed him, someone else would have. His energy was already exposed, vulnerable. In the lens of physiognomy, that kind of death was inevitable. The form reflected fate. If it hadn't been those two men who killed him, Zhang might have died another way. Maybe galloping through the forest and suddenly falling off his horse. That's the point. When a tree has lost its sap and its life force, it only takes a gust of wind, a bit of bad luck, for it to fall. In the same way, when someone's inner energy is depleted, even the smallest misfortune can lead to their end. Sometimes it's not about who strikes the final blow, it's that the spirit was already fading. Let's take a look at Michael Jackson's case. He was originally a handsome black man with strong, prominent features, especially a broad nose. But over time, he underwent multiple cosmetic surgeries, lightening his skin, reshaping his nose to be narrower and more pointed. His eyes eventually developed the condition known as sanpaku, where the whites become overly visible around the iris. He was an extraordinary performer. Every time he released a record, hundreds of millions of people tuned in. He lived a life of global fame, and he was deeply committed to science and health. He wanted to live a long life. At night, he would sleep in a specially designed glass chamber. Inside that chamber, the environment was filled with pure oxygen, completely controlled. But why did he still die at 51? He passed away in his sleep with a renowned doctor right there beside him, yet it still happened. From the perspective of face reading, one clear sign was his sanpaku eyes that reflect inner imbalance and emotional intensity. But beyond the eyes, there's another factor: blessings, or more precisely, a lack of deep-rooted virtue and spiritual balance. In face reading, external success doesn't always align with inner fortune. If the spirit is unstable or the life path misaligned, even fame and wealth can't protect you. Now think about this. When someone becomes a performer or a singer, what happens to the audience? Do their minds become still or stirred? They become stirred, excited, moved. And in this tradition of thought, a restless, stirred mind pulls us closer to being like sparrows, easily startled, easily scattered. But a still, calm mind, that's what leads us toward the eagle, focused, strong, soaring. A stirred mind tends to deplete your blessings, while a calm mind, one rooted in peace, builds them. Now look at the movements Michael Jackson made when he performed those iconic, electrifying gestures. Were they free of desire? No. they carried a strong charge of craving, of sensuality. His performances stirred deep emotions, often fueled by desire. And while he had hundreds of songs, only a handful truly celebrated peace or uplifted the spirit. The rest? They captivated, thrilled, but didn't necessarily guide people toward inner stillness or higher values. He may have known this on some level, but the path he chose was one of excitement, not serenity. Most of his other songs, though, were sensually designed to stir desire, to ignite restlessness in the hearts of his listeners. And when you do that, night after night, year after year, in front of hundreds of millions of people, what happens? You share in the energy you help create. In Buddhist terms, that's called shared karma. In everyday language, it's called shared responsibility. Whether we see it spiritually or socially, the ripple effect of what we put out into the world always comes back to teach, to balance, or to remind us of the weight we carry. All of you sitting here today listening to me share this, if you take what I say and apply it in your life, we're already sharing karma. If you go out and do something harmful, that karma touches me too. And if you do something good, I'm uplifted by it as well. That's what shared responsibility means. We're all connected in the impact of our actions. So when Michael Jackson passed away at 51, with no clear medical explanation, some might see it as mysterious, but from this lens it's not so mysterious at all. The energy we put out comes back one way or another.